Joint meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee and Planning and Historical Committees. We'll begin with roll call. First for the Budget and Finance, Allen is here. Druffel, still here. Good for you. Glover, absent. Hurt, still here. Good. Mendez, Pulley. Did we lose Mr. Pulley? Roten, thank you. Sledge, Swara, Syracuse, thank you for being here. Toombs, here. Van Rees, here. Bircher, missing. All right, Planning and Zoning.
All right, for Planning and Zoning, Chair Withers is present. Councilmember Bradford is present. Councilmember Gamble is still with us, great. Councilmember O'Connell is here. Councilmember Parker had to depart. Vice Chair Rutherford is here. Councilmember Sepulveda. Councilmember Van Rees is also on this committee, and Councilmember Welsh. So thank you for everyone for hanging out with us for a few minutes.
Thank you for being here. And now our goal today is to talk about the CIB, capital improvements budget, and we have members of key departments here that are going to kind of talk us through their prioritization process, and then we want to talk about how we want to integrate our prioritization process with theirs. So I'm just going to work from left to right and let each of the department heads introduce themselves, and then we'll go back to each one and let you very briefly talk about either your master plan or your prioritization process or whatever your elevator speech is on this is how we decide which projects we try to get into the capital spending plan each year. So Mr. Nates, let's start with you. I'll need to.
We're just giving introductions right
At the
now?
moment, we're doing introductions just so everybody knows who's
Okay.
here, and then we'll slide back around.
I'm Tim Nates. I run the planning division at Metro Parks.
You just grab that mic right there.
Good evening. My name is Diana Alarcon. I'm the Director over Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure.
And Matt, if you want to talk about planning. All right, Matt is here representing all of planning because we have some.
I'm the substitute Greg today. So if you have general questions about timeline or process, I can probably answer those. Anything specific about more in-depth into the guts of the CIB, I would request that you hold off until 2 weeks from now, when hopefully Greg is feeling a little better and can join us.
Right. So we're missing some key planning people, but we will be meeting again on February 14th. So, Mr. Bland, I am still learning about which things hit which mic. Is that one live? It is not.
Steve Bland, CEO for WeGo Public Transit.
Kent Oliver, Library Director.
I'm Jerry Tomlinson. I'm the Deputy Director of Fire Operations.
The admin.
We also
Ooh,
have
too many mics. Let's see. Mr. Jameson representing the mayor's office. Okay, I think that's everybody. Great. Thank you all for being here. Now, having done that, we'll start back with, if you can take 2 to 5 minutes and just talk about, starting with parks, what your master plan is, and then how y'all then use that to decide what you want to fund and what else gets funded that maybe is not part of the master plan, and how you decide about that.
For all of the projects in the CIB that originate with the Parks Department, all of them, or nearly all of them, are derived from Plan to Play, which is our countywide Parks and Greenways master plan, which was completed in 2017. So that plan includes recommendations in 5 major categories: land, facilities, programs, operations, and funding. Of those categories, it's the land and facilities that are funded through the CIB and the capital spending plan. So those are the 2 that are reflected in the CIB. In the CIB, then, we have further broken down, particularly the facilities development components, into some broad categories. There are general or umbrella projects there that cover, for example, deferred maintenance, countywide, greenways countywide, general park improvements countywide, community centers countywide. Those are umbrella categories to cover everything in Plan to Play. And then we have further broken down each of those categories into what you might call sub-projects. So for greenways, they're broken down by greenway segment or corridor. For deferred maintenance, we have multiple categories for roofing, paving, playgrounds, turf care, court resurfacing, those kinds of categories. For general park improvements, it's broken down by all of the different facility types that are recommended in Plan to Play. Playgrounds, multi-use, multi-purpose fields, dog parks, skate parks, et cetera. So there are individual projects associated with each one of those. So that is how most of the projects in the CIB that are originate with the Parks Department are determined. And should we talk about? Do you want me to talk about prioritization right now, or is that a good stopping point?
Let's see. Yeah, I think if you can take another minute or two, just because ultimately what we would love to know is what information can we as district council members, and there are some of us who will give it as at-large council members, provide to you that will help you as you and the mayor's office decide what goes from capital improvements budget to capital spending plan. What can we as council members tell you that will help you decide this is the project that needs to happen this year? And so it will help us to know how you do your prioritizing, and then if you can be thinking about what information council members can give you that would help you know that this project in District 1 is more important than one in District 2, whatever.
Sure. Okay.
And also timing, yeah, exactly. So that's an easy question.
Well, we're in the process of reviewing the CIB this year, so some of this would be subject to change. But in the new CIB Norbert system, there's really just three categories for prioritization, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's basically required this year, preferred this year, or requested this year. So currently, in terms of internal discussions, the one project that really is required this year is deferred maintenance. We have a backlog of hundreds of millions of deferred maintenance projects in our system. And from an asset protection perspective, from the perspective of ensuring that we're providing quality facilities to the public, and from the perspective of saving money by spending it now and not allowing further deterioration of facilities, that has to be, from our perspective, a top priority. We have multiple buildings in our system that have had have needed roof repairs for many years, and of course, the longer that those go unrepaired, the more internal damage there is to buildings. We know that when we don't repaint tennis courts every 5 years, that they eventually get to the point that we have to rebuild them entirely. When we don't patch potholes on our internal park roads and parking lots, we know that there's further water infiltration into that paving, and we end up paying more in the long run. So deferred maintenance needs to be a top priority from our perspective. So that's a big one. In terms of new projects, the risk there is not necessarily an asset protection issue. It has more to do with level of service. So Plan to Play, one of the ways that we measure our level of service to the community is with facility types. Numbers of, say, playgrounds baseball fields, dog parks per 10,000 residents. We know what those numbers were in 2017, and Plan to Play identifies goals for what those should be in 2027. Those are based in part on projected population growth, just keeping up with population growth, and they're based on, in most cases, modest improvements in overall level of service for each facility type. So hoping that our level of service is higher in 2027 beyond just population growth. So the number of each of those facility types are identified in Plan to Play, and then we've assigned numbers to each of those in the CIB. So not funding those in any given year just means that we're potentially falling further behind in terms of our level of service overall. The same applies to acres of land, and then related to that, and maybe you might have some questions about this, is locations where we know that we have parkland deficits or areas of the city that are currently unserved or underserved by parks, and that is a priority, particularly as it relates to the land acquisition issue.
Thank you. That's helpful. We can take 30 seconds for one question. Anybody got one question for Parks? We can come back around after we've heard from all the departments. Okay, hold your thoughts, and we'll come back to Parks. Thank you, Tim. That's very helpful. Ms. Alarcon, welcome. We are so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm actually beginning week 4, so please be a little patient with me. So we have a lot of priorities in our department, and I'm really not sure how to share how we rank them. I can share how we prioritize them, but to me they're all very important, especially when we talk about our recent conversation that we started last week with the community on Vision Zero. I think that that's going to play a very important role in how we think about getting our infrastructure improved. So we do have a program in place for our sidewalk and how we prioritize them and get them moving forward. We also have one built for our bikeways. We have one also for our traffic calming initiative, which I think a lot of y'all are familiar with. We also have one for our paving. We have a really very robust paving program. I can share with you the current paving program has we actually have an average OCI of about 70, and the way paving works, it goes from 0 to 100, 100 being the best, 0 being the worst. So
and OCI stands for?
It's Operating Condition Index, sorry.
Gotcha.
So it's how the road actually feels when you're driving on it. So the ones that are real bumpy, they're probably way down there on the grading scale.
Gotcha.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. So we are actually at 70, so our roads are relatively in good condition overall. So that's based on an average. But we have a very pretty robust where we're actually doing on an annual basis anywhere from $20 to $25 million of actually repaving throughout the county. So that's just some of the real quick things that I've really been able to get my hands around. And then how we prioritize them is really based on the funding that's available. So we do get the requests that come in. They come in different ways. We have already pretty much a running list that the department has received over the years. We are taking that list. We're actually going out and we are taking it based on the prioritization, going through and prioritizing that, and then actually putting that in order. And then as the funding comes available, we will actually move forward and just try to knock out as much as we can. The traffic calming is a little bit different because right now we are doing, and we have been, and thank y'all very much for supporting on this, providing us with funding for 50 traffic calming plans a year. So we actually put those applications out twice a year, one in the fall, one in the spring, and we start knocking those out. And so that's really exciting for us to be able to move that forward. And so we just finished, we are currently going through the fall, because we got our capital improvement spending funding available. So we are now going through the fall. We've had a lot of meetings with different districts on that, with the neighborhoods that were selected for the first 25. The application on the next 25 actually closed on the 29th, so we'll be going through that and reprioritizing. And if also just as to make sure everyone and to share is that if we already have an application in, it doesn't get tossed. It all goes in, they're all recalculated, and then the top 25 are what goes to the pile to start working on, because our goal is to get through all past application and including current applications coming in. Recognizing traffic calming is a really important element, and it's really about improving the quality of life of our residents and our businesses out there. We also are going to be working this year on improving our toolbox when it comes to traffic calming. There seems to be like one avenue that everybody goes to for traffic calming when actually there's multiple solutions that they can choose from to help improve the overall quality of life. So we're going to be working on improving that, so you'll be able to see a lot of that. So I'll be more happy to go through a lot of details if I could, but those are the main ones I think that really the council has most to focus on. And if there's something I missed, please do not hesitate to ask me. If I don't know, I'll get the answer. But if I do know, I'll give it to you. I can't.
Great.
Still got a lot on the top of the head. Sorry.
Thank you. I think you've jumped in really, really quickly. Appreciate that. We'll take one question, Councilmember Druffel.
Thanks, Chair. A dual question here. One is on traffic calming. I know in our District 23 we keep asking, and the streets are getting busier and busier. So a old application 2 or 3 years ago may be old, past, it's what's happening now. So do we need to reapply? Because I know you do an evaluation after you get the application, correct?
Yes, sir. At the time, if you have something that was turned in 2 or 3 years ago, we keep that application, but we do actually go back out and update it. So
Okay,
we are
good.
going back out to the latest and pulling new data that we're pulling in just to see if there's any variance in it, because as you said, some dynamics are changing. The landscape of our community has changed. So yes, sir, we are updating that, and then everybody goes back in the pile. They get evaluated based on our criterias, and the top 25 is what goes to the top.
Great to know. The second question is there anything that you can send out to help some of these neighborhoods that probably won't ever get there because they're smaller streets but very busy and very dangerous? Is there anything that you can make recommendations to so that they can do something specifically to help? Because I know some of my streets, and sorry, Chair, I'm hoping not to take too much.
That's right. Keep it quick.
Okay. Just if there is something, it would be very helpful.
Thank you, sir. And yes, we are actually working on a program. So for those folks that aren't qualifying for a traffic calming program right now, and we have quite a few neighborhoods, we actually are working on a program that we would actually work with each council office that would implement. And it's going to be sort of a yard sign that they can put out to let folks know, slow down, kids live here, that kind of stuff. So if you could just be a little bit more patient with us. This was actually a program I did in my prior city. It was extremely successful, especially during the COVID. It's one of those low-hanging fruits where the cost is really inexpensive, but did have a really effective outcome. So we're bringing that program over. We're freshening it up for Nashville because the dynamics here are very different than where I came from. But it was a successful program. So I'd ask you give me about another 30 days and I will have a recommendation or a suggestion or something to offer to someone outside of the traffic calming world.
That's great. I think that'll make a lot of people happy. Okay, I want to make sure we get to the others, so we'll do Councilmember Hauser and then move on to WeGo.
Yes, my question actually refers to something several of us Saturday attended the memorial of the pedestrians that had been killed in 2021, excuse me. And one of the things that was brought up by one of the mothers was the necessity for lights, street lights at pedestrian crossings. And I didn't know where that lives, if that's NES, if that's, NDOT or where to even take that. Is that something that you could, and if that would be part of a traffic calming or where that would go?
Thank you very much, Council Member. It actually is a traffic calming, and it does live within our wheelhouse. It's actually called a HAWK. It's a high-intensity crosswalk activation.
I think we're just talking about the illumination of the pedestrian, the fact that there's no street. Often, NES doesn't break their distance grid.
I see what
and so
you're
if you put a
saying.
street light between, if you put a crosswalk and it just doesn't happen to land where the lights are, it is very difficult to get them to add additional lighting. at that?
That still falls in my wheelhouse.
Okay.
And we are working with NES on improving our street lights. We want to move them to LED, so we're having that conversation right now. And that also will help with illumination. But we'll also be working on improving the crosswalks to make sure that they're thermal reflective, so that if a car's coming and there's someone in it, the light's gonna hit it in enough time, it's gonna respond that it'll be seen. And we'll try to also work on providing more illumination, especially at those high crosswalks that have a lot. And I apologize, but Hawks also, and I'd love to share that with all of y'all at one point, does live in our wheelhouse as well for traffic calming,
right.
and that's a really great mechanism.
We have one at the Adventure Science Center. That's a
We
great
need
one.
more.
We need
Thank
more.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. We'll come back to questions after we get through all the departments. So, Mr. Bland.
Chair, for WeGo Public Transit, first a little bit about process. Actually, we developed the capital improvement plan for two entities, the Metro Transit Authority, which is Nashville, Davidson County, and the Regional Transportation Authority of Middle Tennessee. And they follow a consistent process. The boards of each organization every year adopt a 5-year rolling capital improvement plan, and that's what we use as our input into various processes, the CIB process, CSP, the Transportation Improvement Program through the Metropolitan Planning Organization, et cetera. There's several things that guide it. One of the things, we also fall under the regulation of the Federal Transit Administration. So we have to follow their guidelines. And one of the key guidelines is they have specific requirements under their transit asset management requirements. So every 4 years, we update our transit asset management guidelines. And these are available on our webpage, and it includes a full inventory and assessment of all of the current assets in the system. So from that inventory and from the condition assessments, we go about with our boards identifying those priorities. And generally speaking, our projects will fall into 4 categories. Top 2 priorities are anything that are deemed to be safety or regulatory projects. So anything that's deemed to be critical to the safety of our employees or our customers or our assets moves into that safety category. The regulatory projects might be something where there's a change in regulation necessitating or change in approach. The next level down are the state of good repair projects. Those are the very boring projects that we all deal with every year. It's the replacement of a bus. It's the upgrade of shop equipment. It's basically replacement of assets at the end of their useful life and key capital maintenance items associated with facilities, equipment, and fleet. Third one for us that's a little bit different than probably a lot of departments due to the different eligibility processes for federal grants, what we call transfers to operating budget for capitalizations. And that's where we may have a federal capital funding source that can actually be moved into a line item like preventive maintenance in some of our categories. So some of our operating budget really comes out of our capital plan. And then the next level is, I think, what probably most members are most interested in, and that is execution of the various transportation plans. Most current strategic service plan for WeGo Public Transit is the In-Motion plan that was adopted a number of years ago. We'll be updating that starting over the next year. Projects in that plan and service initiatives, it's not just a capital plan, but it is a service plan, find their way into documents like the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan that you all adopted in 2020. And broadly in those areas, we categorize those projects under the categories of customer experience improvements, and I'll give a bit of detail on each of these in a moment. Customer experience improvements, service expansion projects where we're actually adding to our service mix, and business improvement process. Service expansion is pretty straightforward. If we were going to add service that requires, for instance, additional buses, those additional buses would fall into that category, in contrast with a replacement bus that falls into our state of good repair. Customer experience improvements is a pretty wide range of projects. Some of the ones you'd be most familiar with are any of our stop upgrade improvements, could be shelters, could be stop enhancements, could be some of our customer-facing technology like real-time information, could be park and ride capacity development, and certainly some of the transit centers that we're working on now fall into that category, as well as upgrades to our rail stations on the WeGo Star. And then business improvement really falls into things that would tend to fall in there are a lot of times they're technology projects. For instance, with the pandemic, we replaced our call center software to allow a lot of our agents to work remotely. So both in terms of the pandemic and also, frankly, when we have adverse weather effects, we're able to maximize our call center capabilities by having our agents be able to work remotely. I know a lot of the interest of the council is in the stop and shelter area and where specific stops and shelters get installed. And some of the factors that we look at there are issues like passenger boarding counts, how many people actually get on a bus in a typical day at that location, proximity to adjacent shelters. So if there's not a nearby shelter, we may actually aggregate numbers. So if you have maybe 4 consecutive stops without a shelter, rather than looking at a specific location, we'll also look at adjoining stops to see where you might get that sort of connectivity. We're always looking at our Title VI considerations, so that's where we sit with respect to any concentrations of low-income, minority, and zero auto households. Any locations that are intersecting points of 2 or more bus routes are transfer locations, because those will tend to generate more boarding activity. Proximity to key locations like senior housing complexes, medical facilities, schools, grocery stores, that type of thing. And of course, we also look at constructability. Is there enough space to put a shelter in? Is there the supporting infrastructure to put a shelter in? Topographically, what are we dealing with? You know, and that both allows us to prioritize and budget for those types of facilities. So that gives you kind of a quick overview, and I'll be happy as well as everyone else to take any questions.
Thank you. Any MTA questions right now? All right, let's move on. Thank you so much, Mr. Bland. Move on to library.
Thank you. You forgot to mention you wanted to connect to libraries.
Always.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having us here this evening. The library is very methodical about the way it approaches the maintenance and expansion of the system. In 2014, we authored our Nashville Public Libraries Facilities Master Plan, and it was revised again in 2019. And what it did was to take a look at the entire county, using data from Nashville Next, looking at the transportation plans, looking at demographic and other data information, and plan out through 2040 how we were going to maintain and build the library system. We have 21 locations total, so it is a challenge. We do not just have the main library downtown. One of the things that has happened is we currently have the Donaldson branch is in the process, the construction process, or at least planning for construction. And over the past few years, we've done a number of renovations in major branches, including Bordeaux, Edmondson Pike, Hermitage, and Madison, and a number of others. I'm sorry, we've not gotten to Hermitage yet, but we've done Madison. But when we are looking at our system similar to the parks, we look at maintenance items as being the key piece for us. And then we look, as we go through and the different buildings age, we're looking at interior renovations, interior refreshes. We're looking at replacement of buildings. We're looking at relocation of buildings depending upon how we are forecasting population shifts and need. A key component of how we're looking at replacing different location or different buildings is the age of those facilities, because certainly at a point in a building's life it becomes more cost efficient to just replace the building rather than renovate it. Hadley Park is a great example of that. Hadley was constructed in 1952, and in addition to being undersized for the community, it can only be repaired so many times before it's just not really an effective use of our funding. One of the key components that we look at as we're looking at locations for new buildings is we're trying to make sure that everybody in the county is either within 3 miles or 15 minutes of access for to a library. Whether that, and that would include driving, and seriously, all joking aside, we look at WeGo and the bus lines and making sure we are on bus lines as much as possible, in addition to being on thoroughfares that have access. With respect to your time too, I know a key question that the chairperson just mentioned was the how can you help us, or how can you put requests forward? We are always happy to listen to your requests or impressions of your library needs in the community. There are at least 2 council members here that I have visited with at length about the need for branches in their particular areas. And we are certainly willing to listen to those, paying attention to what we've identified as our main needs as well. But if we could, we'd have a library on every corner. I don't know that there'd be a need for that, but we would certainly like to provide that type of access. But if you have an area that you feel like is really underserved, or what we would call a book desert, we are happy to visit with you about what you believe are some options in that space. A key thing that again, I think the parks referred to as land. One of the things we are finding, especially with our new locations, is that we are desperately trying to identify parcels that we can use for branch replacement. And frankly, it is becoming cost prohibitive for us to acquire these parcels within the CIB. So, was that quick enough?
That was good. Thank you very much. Y'all are doing a great job of summing it up. Any specific questions for library? Great, we'll come back. All right, let's hear from fire.
For allowing us to be here. On behalf of Chief Swan, of course, our primary function is to provide the best emergency services to the public that we possibly can. As a part of that, we have some needs within the department. Some of those are additional stations. We've not added a new fire facility since 2001. That was Station 39. Station 38 was opened in 2004, but it was a relocation of an engine that was already housed in Madison. With the continued growth that we're seeing in Davidson County, we are experiencing higher call volume, and with that, we're also experiencing areas of town that we're having to pull units from other council districts and from other response areas in to make medic calls and fire calls in that area. So a part of our budget process is to request the additional fire stations in the Antioch, Burkett Road area, the Southeast Hermitage area, the Western Davidson County area, and of course one in Northern Davidson County as well. We also have several fire facilities that are very aged. It might surprise you to know that we have 5 functioning stations and or facilities that were built in the 1960s. Of course, since then, these stations, like has been mentioned before, are becoming old. They're requiring a lot of repairs, and a lot of these stations need to be replaced. The overall condition, the occupancy, and the age of the facility is how we prioritize which ones that we replace in terms of requesting money for replacement fire stations. We're very grateful to the council for helping us fund Station 2 and Station 25, which we hope to get some movement on here real soon. We have 11 general service managed facilities. The rest of them are managed by the NFD. We do not have a whole lot in our capital improvement budget to continue to do improvements. It might surprise you to know that we only have 15 fire stations that have backup generators in them. So when we have issues with power, like we did back when the Durango came back through in 2020, we actually had to take portable generators to a couple of fire stations to keep them up and functioning. We're working on, with Metro PD, a concept for a public safety training complex off of Buena Vista Pike in the Tucker Road area. It has also been listed in here. And we continue to need some funding to continue to upgrade our heavy equipment, which with the increased call volume is showing wear and tear, and with the issues that we're getting parts, it's more prevalent for us to get updated equipment. I'll take any questions that you have.
Thanks. Let's see, Councilmember Rutherford. Oops, I'm sorry.
I might have one of those fire stations that I don't know where it's dated. It's on Brook Hollow and Davidson. Do you know where that might be in some kind of priority level?
We have it as, there are actually 14 stations that have been built in the 70s and 60s that are on our priority list. And it would fall in our priority list. Of course, it wasn't built in the 60s, so according to our parameters of that, it would fall somewhere after those 4 functioning fire halls that were built in the 60s. They would be a priority, but after that, it would be kind of a toss-up between those and the other 5 or 6 that were all built at around the same time, which would include Station 7, Station 1, Station 28, that whole era of fire halls that were built with the same building construction.
Okay, thank you.
And can you tell us, is that priority list something that's publicly available on the NFD website somewhere?
It is not. What we basically have is just a listing of the year that these stations were built. I can talk to Chief Swan if you would like for us to possibly do something with it.
Okay, that may be something that's useful for people to see. Councilmember Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, you mentioned that there has not been a new build station since the early 2000s, I believe. Chief Swan shared with me that priority list that you have mentioned, and District 31, my district, is slated to be the next new build. My question would be, because I see that as a new build and the top priority new build, it is still listed as number 6 or 7, I believe, on the priority list. So in terms of new build, how do we move that up on the priority list? And how do you go about determining how to move it up, where it's placed on the list, and what would come before a new build as in terms of priority? Because I recognize that there are stations that need rehab, but those stations are still functioning and still serving their community when roughly half of my district is paying higher insurance premiums because we lack that station location close enough to us to get adequate response time. So wouldn't that warrant moving up in priority list the new build? Thank you.
Yes, Chief Swan and the administration have had conversations about the need for additional fire halls. A part of that is not only do we need the building, but we're going to have operational improvements as well and equipment to go along with it. I would like to replace the halls and put a new fire station in all 4 quadrants of the county. It's a matter of funding, and it's a matter of working through some of the issues that we have within the department. As far as it moving up in priority, whether or not the council wants to put in a hall or replace a hall is a discussion that Chief Swan, I'm sure, is open to at any moment.
Thank you. You want to say that again?
One of the things I just wanted to reiterate is that in order to add a new and additional fire hall, we would also have to add the staffing. So that would go into our operating budget to support the capital side.
So
both.
if you open a new fire station and you have to, and basically that is an emergency services unit, you not only do you have to build the building, but you have to buy the ladder truck, the engine, the medic unit, and then you have to hire the 38 or so people that will house and staff that over the 3 shifts that they will be there.
Thank you. That's something to keep in mind. Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here. Of course, my question is for Mr. Oliver and the libraries. Of course, District 3 is one of the only areas in the county that does not have a public library, and we've discussed the need for a library, particularly in the urban, more density area of the district. While there is a library within 15 minutes away in a car, that does not account for those who walk, and there is not a current bus line that goes directly from the urban area to the library. So my question is, the plan that was developed in 2014 did not include a library for this particular urban dense area, or the Parkwood Union Hill area in the Nashville Next Plan. Not sure why that is, but at this point, what can I do and what can the community do to get consideration for a library in that area. I'm hearing a lot from constituents that we need a library in that area. We've identified a parcel that Metro Schools owns that could be used for the purpose. And so just wanting to know what we can do to try to further their request.
Well, first, I'd be happy to talk with you more about that and how we can move it forward. And I was trying to move through my presentation rather quickly, but one of the things we're running into now is that library branch replacements that we were looking at that should have begun 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, did not start. And so at this point, we are behind the timeline where we were seeing needs based upon not just the growth in the community, but the actual age of the existing buildings and cost of maintenance. I mentioned Hadley, Richland Park's another one of those, Thompson Lane's another one of those, which is why we've been having discussions about the Murfreesboro Road corridor and perhaps being able to find a solution to Thompson Lane along Murfreesboro Road. If there is a logical solution to what you're looking at up there that can help us move forward, we're certainly not opposed to talking about that. But we kind of laid these out with the idea that rather than coming to a council in a few years and saying we need 150 million or 200 million to do a whole series of replacements, we wanted to do these gradually. And what's happening now, we're falling behind, and if we can make something work, I'm happy to talk about anything because we're not getting anywhere with our building program right now.
Just a follow-up to that. So if a request is in our CIB, and as you stated, you're behind in looking at those improvements, how does that impact the CIB request? Will your office facilitate a review of that request and give a cost analysis of that request, or will it just be dropped off?
No, we can certainly do a cost analysis whenever anybody comes to us and really wants to move a project forward. By anybody, I mean a council member, we can certainly do a cost analysis. If you have so many square feet you're looking at renovating, and we have different cost figures based upon the buildings that you're looking at, then we can come up with an exact number for you of what we think that renovation will cost.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is all great information. I appreciate everyone being here and giving us kind of the big picture. Our goal as council members in the next couple of months is to work with the planning department, and Greg Claxton will be back with us on January 14th to present the beginnings of the draft document of all the items that we listed back in the fall. And I'm going to turn on your mic so you can chime in, Councilmember Withers. It is officially the planning department's responsibility to come up with the official CIB document that will also have things prioritized by whether it complies with Nashville Next and how it fits in with all these master plans that we've just heard about. But there's also an opportunity for council members to prioritize their district projects that they've come up with. And some of y'all may have 5 total, and some of you may have 30. I mean, it all depends on how, what the needs are, and also how well people have identified what those needs are. So I would like to ask us to use the next 15 minutes as a group, and I'm grateful that y'all department heads are here to listen to us talk about what process we want to use for prioritizing. Former Councilmember Sherry Weiner passed an official bill that said the council shall have a prioritization process, which I think is great. So rather than having 30 items that sit in the CIB and all say, I really want all of them done next year, we have the opportunity to put those into appropriate years. And then also, last year, I believe people were able to say, these are my top 3 priorities. The year before that, we gave everybody 100 points and said, you can give one project all 100 points, or you can spread that out among 100 projects. But it will be a statement of how important that project or those projects are to you. And then that may be useful to these departments or to the mayor's office as they're putting together the capital spending plan or digging into their buckets of sidewalks or bus stops to know this council member gave this one project 95 points. This must be really important to this district, you know, since I've got 7 things that I could choose from that according to my priorities are all the same, this council member is giving me that information, and that's useful. Councilmember Withers.
I just want to give folks an example, going back to parks. You know, the roads in parks are not paved by Public Works. And so our streets in Shelby Park were in really bad shape before the 2010 flood and got in really, really bad shape after the 2010 flood and have only gotten worse. And so I've been working with Director Odom to seek to add funding into the CIB for the deferred maintenance component that Mr. Nate talked about in order to get that funded. And I've been working on that for about 6 years, and I think next year we're going to get streets paved in Shelby Park, just to give an idea of how that works. But one thing that's been very beneficial to me, I mean, what that kind of speaks to is to have the council members work with the departments, like give them a call and say, like, from your perspective, what are you seeing? Just having, I think, that conversation of getting folks on the same page really helps sometimes. But with that in mind, I did want to pass it over to the administration table to see if the council gives you 1 or 2 or 3 main items as a body versus 100 different things. How does that help the administration to prioritize things that go into a CIB?
They go into the CSP.
Yeah. How do we put it in the CIB in a way that helps it to get funded in the CSP?
Sure. Great question, and just a quick little history. So what had happened last term, Sherry Weiner was then functioning, I can't remember, this is when she was sort of the temporary vice mayor or the budget chair. But there were discussions about council members' various experiences with getting capital items prioritized in the mayor's mind. What I had recalled from previous council service was very specifically, there was a street in the 6th district that I thought needed a new sidewalk, and an adjacent council member in District 7 got a new sidewalk, and I didn't, and his sidewalk seemed to be in much better shape. You just heard examples of that all over the council historically. And there was no way to gauge the priority of your project over your neighboring council member's project, and it was all too easy for your project to be played off of others. Well, Councilman, that's a worthwhile project, but we have 34 other districts, so how can we know that yours is more important? So this rule was somewhat revolutionary in that it actually resulted in the council having a collective unified list, collective. So when the council used the 100-point system, you came away with literally a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list of priorities. And it would be very difficult for the administration to deny the priority, at least of the top tier selections. 3 things I would say about that. Number 1, I think every administration has to acknowledge that there are going to be exceedingly important projects that are not sexy, but are important. A massive sewer pipe is probably not going to attract a lot of attention or media headlines, but it is extremely important, so the administration has to press those through. Secondly, your prioritization of our projects is extremely important to the administration, but the department's individual assessment of that project or request is just as important. So if you are requesting, just to pick a random example, let's say you want a water main along a certain street, and Metro Water Services says that's not where we need it. That's hard to bring those two together, and we have to rely on the department's expertise. But the last thing I would say is the 100-point system, it is difficult. I completely understand that. But this forces the council to turn to each other, because you can all just pick one project and give it that your 100 points, or 5 projects and give them 20 each. And that's fine. That'll give us an indication of what you feel strongly about. But I think the challenge here is for you to reach across the aisle and reach across to your fellow members and see if they would consider awarding you some of their points so that you can really prioritize a project. If there's an intersection in your district, it's in your district, but maybe the next guy's constituents drive through that intersection. And so maybe he or she would give you a few points. It forces you to talk and to strike
discussions on what the collective prioritization is, and then you'll come out of it with a document that's genuinely meaningful. But if you just pick your top 5 and everybody else picks their top 5, last year we had what, a 97 way tie for second place? That doesn't help. And an even larger number of ties for third place. So I think you got to pick the approach that forces discussion but allows you to have literally an itemized list of 1 through whatever the project is.
Thank you. That's helpful to hear it from that perspective. And ultimately what this is about, just for in case there's a viewing audience, what we're talking about is we have the CIB, which is our wish list, and ultimately once or twice a year, generally once a year, the administration will come forth with the capital spending plan, which has to have items listed by CIB project number specifically. And so everything needs to be in the CIB, but as we know, that doesn't necessarily get it funded. And our goal as council members representing our district is to try to get the important projects into an appropriate year's capital spending plan so that they are funded and actually built. And we're not going to decide tonight, but in 2 weeks, we will need to decide or finalize what our prioritization process will be. So, and that is a question of, do we like 100 points? Do we want to be able to vote in other people's districts? Some people think that creates some really interesting dynamics. Do we want those 100 points only to be within our own district? Do you like just saying 1, 2, 3 and then we'll let you go with that. So I would, for the next 5 minutes, just throw it out to other thoughts people may have, or, and before anybody leaves, I want to say Greg Claxton did a really good job at Budget 101 last Thursday, and you can watch it on MNN YouTube, go to Budget 101, where he does a great explanation of the capital improvements budget, and then Michelle Bosch talks about how that actually gets funded. So I would also, for your homework, ask everybody to watch that, because it just fills in some gaps in knowledge that we may or may not have. So I know some people have to get to stuff, and that's fine. But for those that are left, are there any other suggestions of ways to do this rating priority? I'm a numbers person. I like 100 points, so I'll just say I'm biased. But I do want to hear if there are other thoughts, because we'll need to finalize this methodology when we meet again in 2 weeks. And I would also say from the department chairs, if y'all have any comments you would like to make on how that might be helpful to you, because there are some buckets like sidewalks or stop signs, you know, that in the CIB, they show up as this one thing, but then from council members, we often have little sub projects that it may be helpful to department chairs to know what our priorities are. So if there's information y'all could provide that would help us know what will help you, that's also the question that we're asking. Any thoughts on this? Matthew, is that? Hang on, planning table. Yes, sir.
Before we concluded tonight, because I know people are eager to get out of here, I just wanted to remind everybody that the preliminary report from planning showing that's going to list all of the council projects for the upcoming CIB that you guys submitted back in the fall. I know it's been delayed, first because of the redistricting and then because of some illness, but that should be coming out the end of this week, early next week, so that'll be really helpful as you guys start to think about the direction you want to go in with prioritization, because if you want to see if you have maybe 1 or 2 projects that you think are way important, or if you have like a lot, or you see, so I think generally looking at that document, seeing how all your other council members' projects laid out, as well as your own, will really help you come to a good conclusion when you come back in 2 weeks when we do this again to finalize the prioritization process.
Thank you, good point. Other comments or thoughts? Raise your hand so I'll know to turn your mic on. All right, so, Mr. Bland.
Say from our perspective, maybe a couple things. First of all, and I know Diane and I have already had conversations about what I'll call synergistic projects between NDOT and WEGO. So if you're seeing, you know, especially on the Vision Zero stuff, where we can make a bus stop improvement in combination with a crosswalk or a lighting or something else, you know, those may have some vitality to them, where we can do some joint projects. And certainly, most everybody calls us about bus shelters. Nobody's called me too recently about upgrading the brake lathe in our maintenance shop. That doesn't work for us. Critically important, though, I think you all agree we want good brakes. But if you know of specific sites, even in advance of us all putting that in, let us know why. Because there might be something we're not seeing. We're looking at counts, and we're looking at proximity, and we're looking at those things. So we may be missing something. And I know several of you have worked successfully in NDOT and Metro Planning. I think we're doing a better job, even in our development approvals, of getting, bus stop upgrades and shelters incorporated into those developments. Where, to be honest with you, when I first came 7 or 8 years ago, would be a council member, a developer, hey, come put a bus stop, bus shelter here. We just built this thing, and there was literally no place to put it. Or we would have had to spend $200,000 on related infrastructure upgrades. So, in the planning role, if we can certainly be mindful of that as well, it might save us all departmental money and overall CSP money.
Good thought. Any other comments or questions? Thanks to everyone for being here. This is good information. We will meet again on February 14th and decide on what our method is. And then February 28th, our priorities will be due. Thank you so much. We're adjourned. Happy to help.
Thank you.
Okay.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.